Earlier today, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments in a pair of cases involving biological males competing in female sports, one out of Idaho and the other out of West Virginia. Presently, 27 states have laws protecting fairness in female sports. Where's the rest of them? I mean, it's obvious. Men and women are different. So, how did today's oral arguments go? Joining me now to discuss this, Jonathan Scruggs, Senior Counsel and Vice President of Litigation Strategy at Alliance Defending Freedom, which has been involved in both the West Virginia case and the Idaho case. Jonathan, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks so much for having me, Tony.
All right, so the reports that I've read sounded like a majority of the justices were like scratching their heads. Why are we talking about this? It sounds like the arguments today went in the favor of women's sports.
Yeah, they did. As you noted, the issue before the court was whether states can preserve women's sports for women. And the answer to that question is obviously yes. Men shouldn't be in women's sports. I think the most shocking thing I heard at the entire oral argument, and I was there, was the ACLU was asked, what is the meaning of sex? And they couldn't provide a definition. They couldn't say what sex meant, and they couldn't say what a woman was. And if you don't know what sex is, how do you know what sex discrimination is? And so the ACLU's argument effectively was erasing women from women's sports. And if you can't define what a woman is, that means anyone can claim to be a woman and can attempt to go on a women's sports team, can go in a women's shower or women's locker room, and that means women and girls get harmed. So I think that was the most shocking thing I heard of the argument, and I think the justices were seeing through that fog, and we're going to hopefully side with the states of Idaho and West Virginia to protect women's sports.
I'm a little concerned, Jonathan. If you're a lawyer that is arguing before the nation's highest court and you can't define what a woman is, I think someone needs to check your credentials.
Yeah, and it's a sad state that this is where the ACLU is, right? It doesn't take a PhD or a law degree to answer these questions. You know, men and women are different, as you noted, and we should preserve and protect women's sports, preserve them for women. And if you don't do that, then women get hurt. In West Virginia alone, in this case, the male athlete beat over 400 different girls 1,100 times and took away 57 medals. How many girls have to get harmed? How many girls have to get replaced on the podium before we wake up and see that it harms women if we erase the female category? We have to protect women's sports.
It's nonsensical, but it is what we're dealing with. So let's talk about, as I kind of read through the transcripts, it sounded as if the liberal members of the court were hoping to prod the conservative members into a very narrow kind of focus on this that might just deal with these two states as opposed to a decision that will have implications nationwide. I don't see how you deal with this without addressing the overall issue nationally.
That's right. I mean, that's why, and it goes to that, I believe it's Justice Gorsuch or Justice Alito asked the question, how do you define sex? That's the key issue. Because if you define it correctly, everything follows from that. And so if you answer the question like the ACLU did and says, I can't give you a definition, it is nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense at all. And the sports analogy I think I'd use is, if you know you're losing, all you do is you try to extend the game, right? And that's what the ACLU is trying to do here. They're trying to extend the game. But in the meantime, women and girls are getting hurt, and that's what happens.
They're trying to extend the game, hoping that they get a court that will side with their nonsensical position is probably what they're trying to do, because they know this. The momentum is not in their favor right now because we have an administration that is calling this out. We've got a court that is sticking to the Constitution and not creating new law. Talk about the relationship to the Title IX decision. Some references were made to that. That was another big case that the court dealt with earlier that opened the door to some of this.
Yeah, I think you might be referring to the Bostock case, which was under Title VII. And so that case involved employment. Right. And, employment is a totally different situation. It violates Title VII if you try to sex separate, McDonald's. But it doesn't violate Title IX if you need to sex separate sports. That's just common sense. Because biology matters in sports, it doesn't matter in other employment situations.
But it does in a way. So I think I see their concern. Jonathan, because if there's a concern in the locker room where you're mixing these sexes, and forcing people, and I know there's a safety issue, I know there's a competition issue, but there's other issues here as well. I mean, so their concern is, once you agree that women are different in sports, you're going to agree that they're different in the stall next to you in the bathroom in McDonald's or whatever. So I think I see their concern, because you can't contain common sense and truth.
Well, I agree with that. And that's why Title IX is not just about sports, but it is about distinctions in showers and locker rooms and things like that. And those matter. Title IX, the way to read Title IX is you essentially ask, does sex matter? And there are situations where everyone agrees it does, like in athletics, like in showers, like in locker rooms. Women should be protected in those situations. It's okay to recognize real differences.
Right. So the court will, they've taken the oral arguments, they'll be looking at this. So this will be one of the decisions that will come out probably in June or July, right?
That's right. And one thing key to remember is this case might not decide every issue. Just because the Supreme Court says that red states can do the right thing, well, what about with female athletes in the blue states? We've got to protect them too, and those are cases going on in the lower court right now. That ADF is litigating.
Let me ask you about that, Jonathan. We just have about a minute left. I mean, if the court rules, is the ruling most likely just allowing states to protect women and women's sports so that the blue states can still do crazy stuff? Then you're going to have these associations making decisions like, we're not going to compete in this state because this state is putting women at risk. I mean, this long term doesn't seem like that's workable.
I think you're exactly right. And yes, the court here in this case is going to decide whether states may do the right thing. But there's other cases, like I said, that Alliance Defending Freedom is litigating that are vital to protecting women's sports. Title IX does not just allow states to protect women, it requires them to do so. We need to protect girls and women in these other states and across the country.
All right, Jonathan, thanks for joining us today. As always, appreciate the great work that Alliance Defending Freedom does. Good to see you.